Hi, welcome to my video on a review of different forms of a parabola equations. And as in all my reviews, you can treat them as a quiz. And this could be marked at a total of 54 that you can change to a decimal by dividing denominator into numerator and moving decimal 2 places to the right to get a percentage. And this is the first of 6 pages. So you can work out each sheet first and total the bottom, and then when you get them all done, you can add up the total at the bottom and put it over 54 and see what mark you have and how well you understand different forms of a parabola. Here we go. Pause the video and work each one of these out, or work one page out and see what ones you have right. Give yourself a score. Number 1. The vertex of this parabola is right here, so it's x is 2, y is -3. The vertex is the peak point of the parabola. That changes is the positive slope, and on this side is the negative slope. The x of symmetry is the vertical line down through the x-coordinate of the vertex, and that is x equals 2. Goes x is 2. And x of symmetry splits the parabola into 2 symmetrical pieces. As you move one unit to the right and the left of 2, you get the same y value, which is -2. If you move 2 units to the left and right, 2 units, you get y is 1. And if you move 2 units to the left, y is 1, so symmetrical. And the X-intercept is when the Y-intercept is when it cuts the y-axis, and the Y-intercept that's a 3, so that's 1 up. So 1, or it could have the coordinates of the Y-intercept, x is 0, y is 1. 3 marks. The X-intercepts of this parabola where it cuts the x-axis at, right here, is a -1, and the y is 0, and right here the X-intercept is 3, and the y is 0. Remember, the X-intercepts is when the y coordinate is 0. As you can see, the X-intercept is on the x-axis. If a parabola has an X-intercept of -2, 6, then the x-coordinate of vertex is in the middle. So -2 plus 6 divided by 2. So we get the average. So the value of the X-intercept is 2, because the x-coordinate of vertex is in the middle of the 2 intercepts all the time. State the vertex form of the parabola. And the vertex form of parabola is y equals a outside of x minus h all squared plus k. So the vertex is 2, -6, so that's an x -2, -6. So we change the 2 to a -2, x -2, and we do not change this one. And it opens up, so it's a positive. A is positive. The vertical stretches the value of a, which is 3. So it's a +3, and there's the equation. Give yourself a mark. And this has a vertex, so it's an x -1, x plus 1 squared plus 3. Change this sign, but not this one. And the vertical stretch is 4, so a is 4. Opens down, which means it's a minus. So if you have this equation, give yourself a mark. And we do not see vertical stretch, it's reflected, so there's a minus a, but there's no vertical stretch, so the vertical stretch is understood to be a 1, so there's a 1 understood to be there. Translation is 2 to the right, so that's a 4 to the right, so it's a +4, so it's x -4 squared. And 2 up is a +2. So there's the equation. If you have that equation, notice there's a 1 here. Give yourself a mark. Find the equation of a parabola with this vertex, -7, -2, through this point, -10, 34. That's h and k, and I call this x and y. So it's x equals a outside of x minus h all squared plus k. So I fill my vertex in first. H is -7, negative of a negative is a +7, and a -2. So that's the h and the k gone in. Now I'll put the x and the y in. Y is 34. X is negative 10. Subbed in, I get a 34. So that's the A. So I will add up the brackets first by PEMDAS is negative 3. Then I'll square it to get 9. So it's a 9A minus 2. So negative 9A equals negative 2 minus 34. Negative 9A equals negative 36. Divide by negative 9 on each side. A is 4. So the equation A is 4, and it's a minus 7 is a plus 7 minus 2. So 4 times x plus 7 all squared minus 2 is the equation. Give yourself 3 marks, and 3 marks is that if you sub these in and came up with this equation correctly, if you did that, give yourself a mark. If you ended up with 4, you give yourself a mark. If you ended up with the equation, you give yourself 3 marks total. Add up the total on the page, and it's at a 12. Hopefully everything is going okay. Find the y-intercept. How do you get the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept cuts the y-axis, so the x-coordinate is 0. So we put a 0 in the place of x and solve for y. So 0 in for x is negative 2. Bracket first, negative 2 squared is 4. And then we multiply to get negative 12 minus 4. So y is negative 16. So the y-intercept is negative 16. As an ordered pair, y is negative 16, x is 0. So we got negative 16, give yourself a mark. The x-intercepts. The x-intercepts is always when y equals 0. Because when it cuts the x-axis, the y-coordinate is 0. So it was 0 in the place of y. Done. We move the square over to make it x plus 1 squared. Minus becomes a plus. And then we do the square root of both sides by the square root property. But we do plus minus the root of 9. So we have x plus 1 equals plus minus 3. That means we have x equals negative 1 plus minus 3. Negative 1 plus 3. Negative 1 minus 3. So x is 2 or negative 4. And again, you could have 2 and negative 4 mark each. Or you could have ordered pairs, x is 2, y is 0. You could have x is negative 4, y is 0 as ordered pairs. But the x-intercepts are 2 and negative 4. So when you put a 2 in this equation, you get y is 0. When you put negative 4 in this equation and work it out, you get y is 0. Standard form of a parabola, when a is not 0 for a parabola, is x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Find a y-intercept with this standard form. Y-intercept is when we let x equal 0. So we let x equal 0. So we sub 0 in the place of x. 0 squared is 0 times 3 is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. So the y-intercept is 6. Or we can also say the y-intercept is 6, the x is 0. But notice, without working all this out, if you put 0 here in the place of x, you put 0 in the place of this x, this becomes 0. You put 0 in place of this x, this becomes 0. So they both become 0. So the y-intercept is 6, the number on the end. Give yourself a mark if you got 6. The x-intercepts is when you let y equals 0. So you make the equation equal to 0. Y is 0. Move all the terms to the right side. Move it over, becomes a plus, plus, minus. We got 2 choices. Because in the equation I can divide all terms by 2, or I can factor out the 2. So because in the equation I can divide by 2 to keep it balanced. So x squared plus x minus 6 equals 0. And we can x squared, so we can factor as x and x. The product is negative 6. The sum is plus 1. So the factors of 6 are 6 and 1 are 3 and 2. 3 and 2 will give me a 1. Product is negative 6, so I have to have a plus 3 minus 2. Why? Because the product is negative and the sum is positive. The larger factor got to be positive. So x plus 3 equals 0, or x minus 2 equals 0. X is negative 3, x is 2. So the x-intercepts are negative 3 and 2. If you got each one, give yourself 2 marks. And again, don't forget, as coordinates, x is negative 3, y is 0. X is 2, y is 0. Because x-intercepts get the y coordinate 0, cutting the x-axis. Find the x-intercept of this parabola. X-intercepts is when you let y equal 0. Sub 0 in for y and solve for x. X squared moves to the right, to the left to become positive, and the 4 stays. Do the square root of both sides. Don't forget the plus minus. And square root of x squared is x. Square root of 4 is 2, but because it's negative, we have an I. And because we have imaginary numbers, that means there's no x-intercepts. So if you worked it out to this, you get a mark. If you said no x-intercepts, you get another mark. 9 total. Let's continue. Change y equals 4 times bracket x minus 3 squared minus 30 to standard form. The standard form is ax, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So that means we have to expand and have no square on the bracket, so we FOIL. X minus 3 minus 30. And I always work my multiply my binomials first by FOIL. So I get an x squared minus 3x plus 9. FOIL. First, outside, inside, last. And I always simplify when I multiply that if possible, because you get less terms to work with. Makes it easier. And so I multiply by 4. Multiply by 4. Y equals 4x squared minus 24x plus 6. And I get 2 marks. Mark for this and a mark for this one. Find the standard form of a parabola if the vertex is h comma k and x, y. So y equals a outside of x minus h all squared plus k. And I put in my vertex first. I got a negative 2, so that becomes a plus 2 and plus 3. So I change this sign to a plus and not the 3. Now I put in the y as negative 6. The x is 4. So I put the h and k in first. Then I put the x and y in and take my time and work it out. So that's 6 squared is 36a plus 3. So I get, let's go up here, negative 36a equals 3 plus 6. Negative 36a equals 9. Divide by negative 36, and a equals negative 1/4. 9 to 9 goes once, 9 to 36 goes 4. So y equals negative 1/4. A is negative 1/4, and I have an x plus 2 squared plus 3. And I got 5 marks. So if you substitute these in, you get this mark. If you square this out, okay, you get that mark. If you work it out to be negative 1/4, you get a mark. If you get this equation correct, you get 2 marks, 5 altogether. Change negative 2x squared plus 8x to this form. I'm going to factor out the -2. Done. So I divide by -2, gives you +1, -4. And a half, I take a -4, take a half of it and square it. -2 squared is 4, so I put a 4 in here. Makes this a perfect square trinomial. And I factor that squared. That's an x squared, which is x. A half of -4 is -2. So x minus 2 all squared gives me this trinomial. So if you have this correct here, you get a mark. If you have this correct, you get another mark. Number 15, find the vertex of y equals 3x squared minus 6x plus 8 by completing the square. So we complete the square, we group the x's, and we move the plus 8 over to the right. We factor out the 3. The reason we factor out the 3 because we want the a in front of the x squared to be a 1. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, so -6 divided by 3 is -2. So we have a -2 divided by 2 squared. We have a -1 squared, which is 1. So that's a +1. Makes that a perfect square trinomial, which we can factor. X squared is an x. Half of -2 is a -1. So x minus 1 all squared is this trinomial. So the vertex of this parabola is, take the opposite of x minus 1, which is a +1, and 8. So we have 3 marks to be distributed. So if you have this step, you're correct. If you have this one, you get a mark. If you have the final answer, you get a mark. 3 all total. 12 for the page. Hopefully everything is going okay. You understand the different forms of a parabola, and you're able to work it out. Find the vertex of this parabola in standard form using -b over 2a. A is -2, b is -24, c is 1. X equals -b over 2a. B is -24. 2 times a is -2. 24 over -4. So I have a -6. -6, and we sub the -6 into the equation. -6. When we sub the -6x value in, we will come up with the y value, and that gives us 36. And I'll work out the exponent first. That gives us -72 plus 144 plus 1. So y is 72 plus 1 is 73. And we have the vertex is -6. And the y is 73. And there's 3 marks. 1 for the -6, 1 for the 73, and 1 for right now the vertex. 3 marks. And if you notice, the vertex can be found 2 ways, either by completing the square off the standard form or by using -b over 2a. And it's your choice, but most times working out -b over 2a for the vertex in the standard form is much easier most times. Find the axis of symmetry on this standard form. Again, I find the axis of symmetry by doing -b over 2a, because x equals -b over 2a is the x coordinate of the vertex when you find it. And also, if you state that it's x equals the number, then that's the vertical line that goes through the vertex. So a is 1, b is 6, c is -2. So -b, 6, b is 6, a is 1. So that gives me -6 over 2, which is -3. So the axis of symmetry is x equals -3. It has to be x equals -3 because you gotta say x equals -3 to be the vertical line. If you were doing the x-coordinate of vertex, you could say the x-coordinate is -3. But when you say the x of symmetry, you have to say, write out x equals -3 because that's the equation of a vertical line. Give yourself a mark. Change standard form to vertex form. I'm going to do x equals -b/2a to get the x-coordinate, sub back in to get the y-coordinate, and then I can get the vertex form because I'll have the vertex. A is 1, b is -12, c is 3. So the negative of b is -12. A is 1. 12/2 is 6. So the x-coordinate of vertex is 6. Now I'll pick up the y-coordinate by subbing back in the 6. 36 minus 72 plus 3. So that's -36 plus 3 is -33. So the vertex form, that's the vertex of 6, -33. So the vertex form is a outside of x minus h all squared plus k. A is 1. And I got a 6, which is a -6. And I got a -33. So the 1 is not necessary. So if you have 6, a mark. If you have -33, you have a mark. If you wrote down the vertex, you have a mark. If you wrote down this form, you got a mark, 4 in total. 19. Find the x-intercept or factored form of this. Factored form is, a outside of x minus s times x minus t. So I have to factor this, and let's factor. And the product is -12. Let's see, the product is -12. The sum is 4. The factors of 12 are 12 times 1, 6 times 2, 3 times 4. Which pair of factors will give me a 4? No, 6 and 2. 6 and 2. Product is -12, so one got to be plus and one got to be minus. So the sum is +4, so it's a +6 minus 2. So that's the equation of this parabola. This is the standard form. This is the factored form. Give yourself a mark. Find the x-intercepts. The x-intercepts are the opposites. So the x-intercepts are 2 and 6. Give yourself a mark if you do. The x-intercepts is when you let y equal 0. If you let y equal 0, the equation becomes this. So when y is equal to 0, x plus x minus 2 equals 0. X minus 6 equals 0. So x is 2, x is 6. But if you do all that, that's great. But remember, the x-intercepts are the opposite of this. So it's a 2 and a 6. 2 marks. Change this x-intercept form to standard form. So we multiply. FOIL. X times x, x squared. X times 2 is 2x. -6 times x, -6x. -6 times 2 is -12. And I simplify first. 2 and -6 is -4x minus 12. Multiply by -2. And I have standard form. So if you expand it this far, and then you multiply by 2, you give yourself 2 marks. Total is 13 for this page. And one more page, the last video that I did in this unit. I'm going to graph this parabola, which is standard form, using the vertex, using the Y-intercept, using the X-intercept, using the X of symmetry. So I'm going to graph it and label all these parts. So let's find the vertex of this parabola. So I'll write down the equation here. So I find the vertex of this parabola by doing x equals -b/2a. A is -1, b is 8, c is -7. So it's the negative of the 8. 2 times a, which is negative 1. Negative 8 over negative 2. So the x-coordinate of the vertex is 4. Now I'm going to sub 4 back in for x to get the y. And that's 4 squared is 16. I square first to get 16, then I make it a negative. 4 eighths is 32 minus 9. So 16 minus 9 is 16, and 9 is 16, and 9 is, let's see, sometimes when it's a 7. So the vertex is 4, 7. 16 and 9 is a plus 7. So the vertex is 4, 7. So let's go down and plot the vertex. The vertex is x is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and y is 7. So there's the vertex right there. Now I want to get the y-intercept. So how do I get the y-intercept? The y-intercept is when I let, let's do the y-intercept here. The y-intercept is when you let x equals 0 in the equation. So I'm going to put 0 in the equation. When I put 0, I get a 0 there. Put a 0 in, I get a 0 here. So the y-intercept is negative 7. And that's the coordinates. The y-intercept cuts the y-axis. So x is 0, y is negative 7. So y is negative 7. So x is 0 right here. And negative 7. So there's the y-intercept. There's the vertex. And now I'm going to get the x-intercepts, or intercept. X-intercept is when you make y 0. So I'm going to make y 0. So really what this is doing is summing up the whole part of solving, and x-intercepts are the same as roots and all, etc., etc. Move the x over and make it a plus. 8 becomes a minus, 7 becomes a plus, and I factor. X squared is x and x. Factors of 7 are 7 and 1. Product is plus 7. Sum is negative 8, so it's a negative 7, negative 1. And so I let each factor equal 0, so minus 7 becomes a plus, minus 1 becomes a plus. So I have, these are x-intercepts, so x is 7, y is 0. X is 1, y is 0. So these are on the x-axis, so x is 7. X's axis is 5, 6, 7. There's one x-intercept. The other one is x is 1, y is 0, right there. So I have, and so let me draw this parabola. So here we go. It's coming down through here. Coming down through the y-intercept. There it is. And when I draw this one over here, it's the same. So if I go, notice I went 4 units here. 1, 2, 3, 4 is the same value. So it has to go out through this intercept right here, which is 7, down through this one. So notice symmetrical, and the axis of intercept is going, the axis of symmetry, I should say, is x equals, the vertex is 4, 7, so the axis of symmetry is x equals 4. It goes through the x vertex of the axis of, it goes through the vertex on the 4. So it's the vertical line straight down through like that. This is the axis of symmetry. And it's x equals 4, the vertical line, x equals 4. All values of x on this line are 4. 4, 0, 4, 1, 4, 2, x equals 4. So the axis of symmetry is a vertical line through the x coordinate of the vertex. And I have indicated all So 8 marks, 2 for the vertex, 2 for the X-intercepts, 2 for the Y-intercept, 1 for the X of symmetry, and the graph. So judge yourself accordingly. We have 2, 6, and 2 for the graph, 8 total, 8 for that page. And now that we have it all completed, if you go back and add up all the pages and put it over 54 and change it to percent, you have your percent of how well you know about different forms of a parabola. And brings us to the end. If you like my video, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. And that's the content that's on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you very much for viewing my video. Bye-bye.